Welcome to NACCHO's ePublic Health and Informatics blog. I'm Michael Coletta, NACCHO's lead informatics analyst. In November 2012, at the Bring Your Own Data conference, Nina Jelani and I had a chance to catch up with the founders of MappyHealth, the winners of ASPR's NowTrending challenge. Take a look.
Can you show us how to use the platform?
Real quick demo. And I'll just go through the different pages and how potentially to use them. This first is really the home page, if you will, and sort of gives you some just general feel for what information sits within the site. So this is sort of like your financial ticker, if you will, but it gives you the stats in terms of trends globally. So this isn't necessarily drilled down to a particular location, but it's in terms of the whole data set. So for each one of the disease condition sets that we track, you'll get a 24-hour, 4-hour, 2-hour stat that'll kind of be running across this ticker, and it can give you an idea of where maybe to drill into. Then down below it, you get statistics on the database. You get about 2 weeks of data on the site actively. Behind the scenes, we're collecting and storing this information for research purposes. We're not using all the fields that come in as you gain information from Twitter, but we're presenting 2 weeks worth of data. So these update regularly and give you an idea for what's sitting within the data store you're looking at across the site. So for example, right now there's about 3.7 million tweets across all the things that you're going to see. 1% of them are geolocated or sensor location, and the other 68% have profile locations in them. Then down below you see these kind of dynamic word clouds that get redder and bigger as you have more tweets. You can hover over them, see how many tweets within this data store is associated with a particular condition set. The tweet locations, these are the actual geolocated tweets, so you can see the top 20 geolocated tweets within the data set globally. And then in terms of user locations, so you can see the top 20 user locations as part of that. Then a couple of different views. So we have different trends views. So our trends over time is what you're seeing in the ticker right now. You're able to see 2-hour, 4-hour, 24-hour, 48-hour, and 1 week trends. These are aggregated number of tweets for a particular condition set. And then a user can really, if you only really want to look at the 1 week trends, for example, or you're really more curious about what's happened over the last couple hours, you can modify the graph to see what you want to see. If you wanted to zoom in on a particular area of the graph, you can do so, modify it. All graphs are exportable, so if you're doing research or you want to look at it, you can then export that graph or print it out. These also give you the ability, if you see something curious that you want to get more information on, you can click directly on it within the graph and it'll bring you to the page itself. The next page is really by keyword. This is probably my most favorite, and so it takes those categories that you saw graphed on the other page over time, associates them with the conditions that are feeding those aggregate statistics. So in this case here, under acute respiratory illness, you'll see that we have about 574,000 tweets associated with cough, 354,000 associated with fever, etc. And then we take and we add those qualifiers in that we talked about. So in terms of all the tweets associated with the respiratory illness, about 30,000 of them are associated with sick. So you can see the trend of people sick with one of these 5 condition sets. If you really wanted to just look at what is the trend around fever, for example, I can quickly jump to it, and now I get the trend around fever. I can zoom in if I see something that I want to particularly look at, a smaller block of time. I'm able to zoom in on that, and then you're able to, on an hour-by-hour basis, click on this and then get kind of the top 300 or the 300 tweets or so to analyze and see what's going on. You can actually go into any of those condition sets. So if you're particularly interested in influenza, or in this case, as mentioned earlier, you're interested in dengue fever, you can see those trends and graphs by going into the condition set. Now down below, you can add things into these graphs. So for example, if I only want to really see this trend Associated with those that just have a geolocation, I can see that graph or trend. If I'm only interested in tweets that don't have a hashtag or URL associated with dengue, I can do that too. Or I can look at all three together. If I wanted to then see, well, what are the top 10 qualifiers? What do those look like? I can click on and add the qualifiers into my graph, and then I can select and choose which ones I want down below. I can add additional terms in if that's what I'd like to do, or I can just add everything and aggregate from there. Again, if notice this spike, I can drill into it. I can then hover over any of these. And we aggregate those locations in a couple of ways. So these are the geolocated tweets, so you get sort of a map view, if you will, and then some stats down below that associate themselves with the map view that from a research or statistics standpoint could be exported to Excel and looked at on a regular basis, or you can, sort of select which ones you want from down below here, and then the top X places. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. You'll notice that it zooms in on the US, but we do have other spots within the world that happen to show up.
Just to note, we're mapping we're not necessarily mapping the tweets, obviously, here. We've aggregated those and done a normalization on the numbers with a simple z-score, so we can see that right now it looks like Mississippi has the most volume right now, so you might want to head over there, and it's obviously in red.
And then the other is by user location. So what we mentioned earlier, if you search for New York, for example, different users have different profile locations within Twitter. The last thing you have access to on this site is our blog. What that algorithm in action starts to look like is, for example, we did some analytics on meningitis when it first came out, and we have some graphics on the US. And so what this is showing here are basically tweets about meningitis hour by hour across the US during that time frame. And we're able to take and do the same visualization with any of our stuff. So we've done it with meningitis and tweets only associated with deaths, tweets associated with sickness. So as you see this isn't automated on the website yet, but sort of the next steps are to be able to create these types of visualizations real time so that you can start to see patterns. So here you start to see patterns towards when meningitis was really becoming communicated, talked about, dealt with across 3 different events. And you start to see the US light up.
Whoa.
Well, that correlates with what was going on in the news.
Why should local health departments use this app?
And that, this is not the end-all be-all. This is just one tool within the health department and or the health folks tool set. So this is just one part of that overall picture of what's going on.
I think a huge utility of this is not necessarily trying to find people that are sick. It's trying to get out ahead of the communications and on a bi-directional basis. Are we seeing things that aren't quite right, and how do we respond back to those? Or are we putting information out and it's not getting where we think we want it to get to, and how do we get it to those audiences better?
What steps should they take to implement it at their health department?
I'll take that one. I think to start, they can go to the website and go to the by location, and they can drill down and search for their community or maybe the biggest city near them, and they can start by looking at the trends in that area and seeing some of the specific tweets and see if they're talking about and see what the people are actually talking about, so they can know their community and like the health situation there.
Okay, and how can local health departments get more information about MappyHealth?
They can visit the website. As Mark mentioned, we're keeping a version of the website up. We're actually using some of the prize money funds to fund the servers on the back end and the technology to keep that open and publicly free, and really further spark innovation in this field. I think all 3 of us feel very strongly that this is sort of dipping our toe in the water of what mining social media could mean for healthcare environments, and public health. And so we want to keep that out there, at least in the short term, to see what folks are thinking, get feedback on the site, and get further feedback from the community, the public health community.
Yeah, I think there's a really convenient contact us form on the website right now, both on MappyHealth, also on socialhealthinsights.com, which is where our blog is at. feedback is always appreciated. What new features they'd like to see, we've already gotten a lot of feedback. But if we can aggregate that and tackle the features that people most want, the things that we're seeing the need for, that'll help everyone.
Well, thank you all for joining NACCHO's ePublic Health blog, and we wish you all the best.
All right,
Thanks.
cool. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm just, we can cut it out.
Yeah, we can cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can edit.
I know, right? That's what's great about it.
A single tweet.
You gotta speak up.
Start again. Thank
You
you.
just have to be louder.
Sure.
Yeah.
It
Go ahead.
actually started out, I'm going to use you as a focal point. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Okay, sorry.
And will there be continued development with I cannot say that word right now, visualizations and analytics?
Try that again.
I cannot say that
Just
word.
visualization. Go ahead.
I cannot.
Yes.
I cannot. You know what? I couldn't say it yesterday, and I can't say it.
Just say analytics.
You can use
Analytics.
Yeah.
No, but
There
do
we
the
go.
whole thing again.
Will there be continued development of vision?
Skip visualization.
Everyone spells, our